Nice to have you in, Purple.
Hey, Purple.
Good to be here,
Good
Jim.
round of footy.
It was. Just before we start, as we know, we didn't have Bill on Saturday, and we learnt that part of his activities on the day in question at Skipton was half-time.
Yeah.
Beers with Bill.
Beautiful.
On the ground.
Couldn't think. No, not on the ground. It's too cold.
Oh,
out
was
there.
it? Okay,
Was
yeah.
in
You know the other
shed.
bit? Was
Yeah.
tossing the coin.
That's right.
And they did that undercover.
Yes.
Because Fat wouldn't stand out the middle.
I said, can the captains come to me?
You believe that? They
I can,
tossed
'cause
the
he's
coin undercover.
You know what?
He's completely lost his way.
Well, no.
You have.
You two have.
No, we haven't.
Because I'm out with the real people.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're meant
Out
to
in the
be here
country.
working. That's
no,
your
the
job.
real people. You don't leave bloody your postcode. Or you might go down to the bloody market here and buy a shoulder leg of lamb and cook that up and have your
Where's he at?
I don't know. Mel Brick or whatever it is, drinking
Mel
that,
Brick.
sitting up there drinking that like
Mel
a
Beck.
fair dinkum flog.
He went
Get
to
out
Cobram.
and meet the real people.
You went to
Genuine.
Cobram Estate, didn't you?
That wasn't in Cobram,
Genuine people out there, volunteers that do everything for nothing in the canteen. And I'm talking to you too, old 2014 basket press or whatever you have.
It was too. And
You
it
wrote
was
all that down.
Unbelievably good.
Flogs you two up.
No, we actually turn up for work. That's what we do.
We're contracted to work on Saturday,
I'm
as
like
you
you.
are, and
Get
we were
out
there.
to the real people.
We
I know
spoke to
this,
Shez.
Purple. Jack Buckley's not going to Paris to watch Celeste.
He's
Oh,
not
yes.
going.
Not going.
No.
He's confirmed he's
Yeah,
not
he's
going.
not-
So we can tidy that up from last week.
We knew that. And the AFL.
Well, again, he's contracted to play footy last time I checked. I mean, it's...
Well,
I'll tell you what.
You
I
can
will
get out of that.
Say this.
You
Two
can.
people who I have known literally since they were born are both playing bloody good football. He's one of them.
Yes.
And Jackson Archer is
Jackson
the other
Archer,
one.
yeah.
But they've both been magnificent.
Yep.
Different body
so-
shapes.
Very
of-
different body shapes.
Jackson to his old man.
Oh, yeah.
His old man was a bit tubby. Really.
Roly poly.
He
No,
was.
early.
I've got enough problems with Glenn without you being in a
was a
conversation with
roller
you
coaster.
about that.
Roller
No, we're happy to say
poly.
that.
Yeah.
He was a tubby little
Hey, what
bastard.
about the AFL? They wrote 3 letters to clubs. What's
Yeah.
going on?
We'll start there.
Yeah, let's a bit of news,
In
Damien.
relation to the concussion issues at the club, it's just a debacle what's going on. Last week we tried to get 2 players 3 week suspensions on incidents that the umpires thought was nothing to see him move on. So we then get to the next week and 3 players have had concussions and the clubs. Now, I understand there's reasons for this. The doctors were sometimes in the rooms and sometimes they're distracted looking at other incidents. But 3 players, and the 3 players in question, Jordan Dawson for the Crows,
Yes.
Harris Andrews for Brisbane, and Harry Mackay for the Carlton Footy Club, all stayed on the ground after moments in which they should have been given an initial HIA. And then we'll let the clubs work it out, but they have been given, please explain, Bill, as you
Protocols?
rightly point out, about as to why these protocols were moved away from. So we'll see how that plays out.
What do you think will
Badly. Again, I'm happy for the doctors to explain it, but there needs to be a mechanism in place where if the doctors are otherwise engaged, that someone needs to get those players off and empowered, whether it's the umpire. And I've sat through a briefing on how this works, and there is a...
Is that Doctor in the Ark?
There's a medical person in the ARC who relays information that they see off the broadcast to the bench. Now, I'm assuming it was relayed on all 3 occasions. It's just that, and the Mackay one was, the doctors were, I believe, in the rooms with another player, but there needs to be a way that he comes off. So look, Carlton has cleared him of concussion, so he's not in protocols. The bad news for Carlton, though, is, and we got to learn this, and he did look banged up yesterday, Tom de Koning.
The Opie looked banged
He
up.
looked really banged up, and he's now been diagnosed with a foot problem, which will keep him out for the remainder of the home and away season.
And a collapse.
And a collapsed lung, which was also sustained in the same game.
Was that big Tristan having his way with him?
I believe it was the contact with Tristan. There was nothing. If
he's
it's
a
the incident I
big bastard.
noticed on the broadcast, Jim, there's nothing to worry about.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying
and it
he
looked quite
is
innocuous, the one I saw. Now, whether it was just the culmination of other knocks that actually had him have the impact on that occasion,
Out for
who
the
knows?
year. That's big.
Home and away, 5 matches remaining with the foot. So they'll have the week off after the home and away season. And look, they're going to play finals, so you'd think he'd be right. He just looked
Tristan,
banged up the whole game.
He looks like he should be in the Waratahs front row.
Yeah.
He is a big,
with the
big,
tape around his ears.
Big
Yeah.
man.
He
Jeez,
got
a big
votes
man.
again.
No, he's
Jeez, he's
playing
had a good year.
Coaches
bloody
voted him.
well.
Yeah, I know in the paper I saw. I don't know about coaches who are waiting for.
Harry Sheasel
Jimmy
was one
out
of 2 players to get the coach's perfect 10. Your man
the
Keezer
weekend.
was the
Keezer.
other.
Keezer.
Out of the
Good
9
was the
matches. So,
Doesn't he love it?
Oh,
Kicking
yeah.
goals.
to get both coaches to give him 5 in a match where Paddy Cripps was really outstanding, it just goes to show. I mean, if he won a best and fairest last year, Harry Sheasel in his first year, I'd imagine, Jim, you watch them very closely. I think he's tracking to go back to back, isn't he?
No doubt, and should be in the All-Australian squad at least. He's a jet, Harry Sheasel.
So positives. I felt the Brisbane Lions
Cherry
were
got 5.
5. Okay. I thought the Brisbane Lions were the big winner. There were a couple of good big winners out of the weekend from a team perspective. And look, they got Sydney at the right time with injury. We'll touch on the Swans component to that conversation in the negatives part of it, Bill, from that injury perspective. But love the game of Hugh McCluggage. We know he's become a big-time player. He stood right up, got votes in the Norm Smith last year and was one of their better players. He stood up in the last quarter when that game had to be won. 2 of his 3 goals were in that period. What Zorko's done, Dane Zorko, at the age of 34, 35, after Kadeem Coleman went down, threw their entire plans for the entire season out when he went down in the first half of the first game this year. He has just covered for him magnificently and was another great performer. Cam Rayner's having a very nice season, Bill, or at least a nice 2 months.
Yeah. He just ran through tackles.
Yeah, and Joe Danaher set the win up with a really, really big game. First quarter. And the man we just mentioned, Harris Andrews, I thought he played a really good role on the Swans forward. So from 2 and 5, they've only lost 1 match since that point of the season, Bill, and they've had a draw as well, but 9 wins since they were 2 and 5 after 7 matches. Another big winner, Hawthorn, on the Saturday twilight fixture. They've become, in my eyes, and I think many others, certainly all their supporters, they are the most watchable team, aren't they, at the moment? They really are.
What about
vibrancy with which they play?
Start of the season to make the 8, they were $8, the Hawks. After round 5, when they were zipping 5, $101.
Were they?
To make the 8.
Yep.
Now they're $2.50.
Yeah. 6-4 in the old terms, Bill.
6-4.
Yeah.
Well done, Damo.
So many players to talk about, and you could go through the whole 23 on the weekend, but just some random name. Lloyd Meek's role and effect on the entire
Fat
team.
Man.
I found him.
Fat found him.
You found him?
He's from Skipton, out that way.
Is he?
Where I was Saturday. Yeah.
The Dockers might have
I
found
gave him votes last week on Triple M, and everyone poo-pooed me.
Pew.
When you gave comments, not special comments.
Yeah, they weren't special. We know that.
You're right, Damo. The Dockers may have found him.
Yeah, the Dockers found him first, and Hawthorn found him after it. Ginnivan was great. We've known he got, I think it was 9 votes or 8 votes out of the coaches' votes out of there. Yeah, look, Dylan Moore, you talk about whole Australian people, Jim. I'd be staggered if he's not. He has to be in the squad. And I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the
The other one is Massimo D'Ambrosio.
Yeah,
beautiful.
How well
really
is he
good
going?
pickup. Really good pickup.
I did not see this injury.
Why did the Bombers give him up?
They didn't want to, but the way his contract fell and Hawthorn had been into him, he basically fell out.
So you've got to say, well done, Sam Mitchell. One for picking him up, but he's playing good footy.
Doesn't he use it well?
Beautiful.
He's a beautiful user of the ball.
That was always the tick on him, wasn't there?
That was, that was it. And you want to, Western Bulldogs, one more positive before the break. They were great. And they've now had a good fortnight. Carlton 2 weeks ago, Geelong at the Cattery on Saturday night.
Player. Adam Treloar.
He's had the best season of his 13.
I know Bont, we all love the Bont, but he might be leading the best and fairest.
I reckon there's a case to mount for that to be the case. He's had 13 years in the system at now 3 footy clubs.
He's a good player.
I feel strongly this is his best year by some way.
And kicking goals.
And I thought he was the best performer on the ground. Rory Lobb equally deserves.
He got 9 coaches' votes. Rory
Lobb deserves a lot of credit too for how filling that hole down back with.
Look at Fat.
I know. Liam
Are you
Jones.
claiming him as well?
Oh, Rory, no. Well done. He's bounced back beautifully. He was gone.
Yeah, he was.
He was GAWN.
All right. Some negatives.
No, we'll have a break.
We've got a few more positives, Jim. I try and be positive.
Some more positives and negatives coming from Damien Barrett next on the Rush Hour Triple M.
All right. So, Purple, you're still going with the
Yeah,
positives?
well, you got onto me a few years ago about being negative too often in this segment. So I try. I've been good for a few years, Bill. So we're going to continue with the positives. And Fremantle deserves some good love. Not so much for beating Melbourne soundly, but the manner in which they did it. They've changed their game style in season, and I think that takes some doing. They've gone from being that regularly dour, boring club to one that does have some tricks, and their ball movement is key to that. It's a style of game that will serve them well in a final series, and they will get there now. We know that it was only 2 years ago they made and won a final. They beat the Bulldogs in an elimination final in 2022. Last year didn't work out for them. They've got some extra bows this year to what they're about. The forward line's functioning. Walters came back in, kicked
What
four.
about Dick Tracy?
Oh, he's
the potentially big name star, isn't he?
Yeah, he marks him up the ground. He's not scared
he does run
to go up the ground.
Jai Amos has had a good patch of form too. It was about 3 weeks ago he didn't, but he's had another 4 goals in the weekend, and also Sam Sturt kicked 3. So it was take your pick as to whether it was Sarong or Brayshaw who was best on ground, and the coaches couldn't split them. They both got 9 votes out of the game.
Can Sarong win the Brownlow medal?
I would have thought not maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, but he's had a good patch since that
has.
time. And he
He's had
did
a lot
poll
of it.
early. Yeah. Sorry,
might
you'd expect him
podium.
to poll early.
Well,
He's
because
capable of podium.
who takes? I suppose Brayshaw takes a few.
Probably Brayshaw. Yeah, I'd imagine.
But he's a chance.
But they're both great.
Andrew Brayshaw is the best two-way running midfielder in the comp, bar none. His defence, his work when he hasn't got the ball is the best of any of the elite midfielders.
Couple of great tackles, smothers.
Run-down tackles.
Yeah, run-down tackles.
There's some
yes.
midfielders that could do with watching some tape of what he does when he hasn't got the ball. That's the strength of
you're
him.
right.
Pay more
Mekong
attention to
Steve.
that
Mekong.
reverse running. Now, GWS too, just one more sort of major positive out of the weekend. They did a number on the Gold Coast, and they've just now timed their run beautifully as they did last year all the way through. So on the verge of a top 4 spot again, not quite there at the moment. They're only behind by the 2 premiership points at the moment. But yeah, their forward line, Jim, you talk about dynamic elements to forward lines as we just did with the Dockers. Harvey Thomas, Brent Daniels, Darcy Jones,
Hogs.
Bedford's there. Hogan, the tall option, another 4 goals, Bill, and
49
for the year. So
This is best year in football, Jesse Hogan.
by some way, yeah.
He's a bloody
Coming
star.
off a good year last year,
Yeah,
but I think he's
exactly.
gone again this year.
Won some, doesn't he? Really?
Yep.
No, he's good. I love
All right,
him. They're
there-
good to watch
there's-
too, the Giants.
What
are.
about the skunk?
They are.
Tim Membry,
Oh,
by
come
the
on,
way.
skunk.
We've got to give
Skunk.
him.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't used his name for a while.
No,
so
we
well
haven't,
done,
and
Timmy.
that's a good shout out, Bill. I
Yeah.
did have him written down there. I thought we'd better get to the positive, negatives, but Keys also too. We gave him enough love on Saturday, Jim, when
And big
Bill was
fella.
away.
The skunk was magnificent.
He was,
He was
yeah.
superb.
Good on
well
you.
done.
Well done.
All right, negatives.
Negatives. Essendon's a major concern, and it is happening again as we speak with
Can't
what
happen
they did
again,
last year,
surely.
falling away dramatically. Well, they've lost 4 of their past 6 now, and the manner in which they gave that game up to the Crows on Friday night was bad. And it does continue to throw into the conversation the lack of quality of opponent they've been able to beat to this point of the season. With 5 matches left, there's enough runway still for them to make something of it. But you just know the way footy clubs work, that they will be thinking about this in the backs of their minds as much as anyone else in the industry as to how disastrously last year concluded. And they need to make a statement, Bill, in those remaining 5 weeks. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very long off-season for them because they had it set up only 3 weeks ago as they were in the top 4.
They
Well,
were.
they got the Saints this week at Marvel. They have to win that game.
It won't be a gimme.
No, not a
Liam
gimme.
Henry,
They
as you
have to
touched
win
on,
that
Bill,
game.
in the wrap, is
Very
out for the
important.
year now with a knee problem. That will be a problem for the Saints, but it won't be a gimme. Collingwood too. I personally waited till the game against Hawthorn before you put the texter through them. I think you put the texter through them now, don't you, Bill?
Yes, you do.
Yep.
The who was that joke on? Anyway, to make the 8 now, they are $10.
Are they?
They're
was that
$10.
joke
I
on?
don't know what he's talking about.
Remember the Hawthorn? Keep talking. I'll think about it. It was a very funny one.
Wasn't fun.
But $10 now to make the 8, Collingwood. Can you believe that? Remember they won the premiership, 6 months ago? They were talking about it. There's going to be a dynasty here. They've got some good kids. They've got some older players. Now they seem to be old and slow.
They've had injuries,
No,
which
they
have
have,
been a
yes, they have.
major reason for them falling away. And those kids have had good moments, but they're not able to elevate them off the ladder position they're in at the moment. So, yeah. Now, Sydney, not from a negative perspective, they've now lost 4 matches by a total only of 10 points, but the injuries they sustained yesterday against the Lions, courageously they fought this game out hard, I thought, and were probably the more
Great
meritorious performer, but they lost the game, and Rampy's now out for some time with a calf. We're yet to hear officially what diagnosis is attached to the Tom Papley
Didn't
ankle
look
injury.
good, that.
It didn't look good at all,
No.
and the way your man John Longmire spoke post-match doesn't give much away ever, but
No.
it was just more, if you were to read into both the body language and the words, it didn't read all that well or sound all that good. So we'll hope they will release something at some stage publicly to see what that's about.
Purple, just doubling back on Essendon, they play 3 of the top 4 clubs in the last month. They play Sydney, Brisbane and Freo
Yeah.
as part of their last month of football.
Yep.
So they have to win this week.
You'd think 3 of the 5...
If they drop this week,
Yeah, if they
they're
drop
in
this
all
week, it's
sorts.
going to make it all sorts of problems for
So
them.
do Collingwood too, don't they? They got a terrible run.
Well, as you said, if they're
Gone.
that amount of odds to make it. Melbourne, 2 points out of the 8, and you just cannot see them doing anything significant from here. I know there's, again, excuses with injury and problems they've had. Petrarca being out is a major problem.
When's Gorn back?
Well, they said 3 weeks when they first diagnosed it publicly. It's now been 2 weeks he's missed. We know what he says, and he constantly is trying to mount cases to play. He tried to get up for last week even, having only just missed the 1 week. They said no, and that was the big problem, as you've already touched on, I think, Bill, in the wrap as well,
Jeez,
or
I've
when you
touched
played
on it a
the...
bit.
the Max Gorn audio from Triple M this morning. But the 47-9 clearance or hit-outs in the first quarter, it was just
can't cover him over any period of time. He's the most dominant ruckman we've seen in the game for 25 years.
Surely they got another big man on the list.
Well, the only other one they had was Tom Fullerton, who, as Simon Goodwin explained post-match, wasn't even getting his hands on the ball sufficiently enough in the ruck role in the VFL to consider going up against Luke Jackson.
That's bad management then.
Well, it is if you do want to put that part of the conversation to it, Bill, because of the trading out of Brodie Grundy last year.
So
it's all very well and good to make that decision
surely.
on Grundy. That's fine, but you needed to bring someone else who was ready to go.
I reckon every other club's got at least 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well, Carlton's situation with Pitnet now to
comes
cover
in.
for Tom de Koning is the point you're making there. Look, there's 3 teams that are continuing to lose, but one of the 3, North Melbourne, is winning or losing with a bit of gallant.
They were better. I
Yeah.
said to Fat, I sat and watched the first quarter because I was down in the rooms with a magnificent old shin boner who...
What's his name, Jim? We give him
Arthur, ripping bloke.
All the best,
and,
Arthur.
He was down in the rooms meeting Clarko and the player. He was a lovely, lovely old
That was
man.
your nice gesture for the day, wasn't it, Jim?
Finished that, and then I went into the vacant box next to our calling team and watched the first quarter. They are much, much better.
You know what they're doing? Staying in the game for longer and longer, which is very important.
And so the 7-week patch they've had since the bye, 5 of those weeks were really good. There were 2 wins and 2 really narrow losses. And they had the game against Sydney Swans last weekend. But the response yesterday against Carlton was more in keeping with where they want to go.
A lot to like about
a lot to like. It is coming together. Gold Coast just did what Gold Coast does, and that is lose away from home, and that was against GWS.
But this week, they play Brisbane at home.
Yeah, they do.
So do they win that? That's a good game.
Well, they've won every game at home this year, so they're Brisbane on a roll and
like
needing
each
to keep.
other, those two. That's
No,
what I love.
they don't.
They detest each other.
Dane Zorko will be doing something, won't he? Yeah.
If you keep going long enough, we'll get rid of Bill's phone topic. So I actually like the length of this break.
And as we sign off on one more, just the Cats. So I'd
What
like
happened
I have
to the
liked what the
Cats?
Cats had been doing, but it was a bad one, Bill. But
I'll tell you what, the ground was no good either.
no,
The VFL played on the ground beforehand, chopped it up a bit, but they weren't in it from the get-go. Western Bulldogs were very good early and middle and late. They did it all. They should have won by more, actually.
they got it going finally on the scoreboard.
They're
The Bulldogs
actually going
in the last
okay.
quarter. Yeah.
Hey, Purple, BGS beating Haileybury by a point to win the APS title. There are more games to come, but that's... Adam Romanascus had a great idea, and that is the 2 best teams in the APS should play a curtain raiser at Marvel sometime during the winter.
I like that.
We should showcase the
Bloody
2
oath.
best teams because they're all full of kids that are about to be drafted.
Yeah.
I would love that to happen. It'd be a great buzz for the kids.
And the
a
last
good
game,
showcase.
because there's still 2 games to go
Yeah.
in that comp, so it should be nearly the last game.
And the 2 best
that'd be
teams,
good.
they should do that.
Yep.
All right,
Well done,
well done,
Rama.
Purple. I like that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
go
Jim.
home.
You can hear more of Damo on
Go
the midweek
home.
rub on Wednesday. You might have to as well,
Key
Bill.
for this topic.
Judging by the
hang
topic
around for
coming
the
up
topic.
next.
Hang
I'll
around.
go and
I'll
have
hang
your Melbrick.
Yeah, unusual.